on August the 15th, 2018. It had been just 2 days since pregnant Shanann Watts and her 2 daughters, Bella and Cece, vanished without a trace from their cozy home in Frederick, Colorado. Before their disappearance, the Watts family seemed like the perfect family of 4, soon to be 5. But now, all hope of seeing them together again alive is gone. Chris Watts confessed to a violent confrontation, claiming he witnessed his wife murdering their children in cold blood and then killed her in a fit of rage. He led police to their bodies, which were found concealed in a shallow grave and in 2 oil tanks on a desolate oil field where Chris worked. Now Shanann's handsome husband, the father of her children, Chris Watts, has been arrested and sits behind bars. At every turn, police continued to uncover shocking new twists. They had the bodies and a confession, but from the start, police doubted Chris' outlandish story. He's already proven himself to be less than credible. In the days following the discovery of Shanann and her babies, investigators would continue to try to piece together the puzzle of what actually happened to them, and America could not get enough of this terrible story. Why would there be such an appetite for this? Why would people be so interested in it? Because this happened anywhere, to any family. This wasn't a fringe family. There weren't people that lived on the edge that you would look at and say, yeah, I can believe that. No, you would look at this family and say, wow, if this could happen to this family, it could have happened to any family. And that was unsettling. People wanted to know how, why, and what happened. How can something like this occur? A lot had happened in Chris Watts' life during that week-long period in August. His family was dead, his affair had been exposed, and he had been arrested. Chris's interview, filmed at the home he once shared with his wife and children, had gone viral. In the blink of an eye, America's new Scott Peterson was emerging. Reporters noted that Chris may have looked like a silver fox, but he was really a wolf in sheep's clothing. Chris Watts had become America's most hated father. Immediately, the investigation pulled back the curtain on a crumbling marriage that may have led to murder. Behind the cheerful family photos and bubbly social media posts, there was deep hidden resentment, tension, and strife. Upon examination, all those posts were one-sided. They were all put up by Shanann and not Chris. Maybe because Chris was too busy having an affair. There were money issues, and Chris was worried about the financial strain of yet a 3rd child and what it would cause. His feelings were, we're not making it with 2 children to feed, clothe, and raise, and now there's a 3rd one on the way. But more importantly, there was an emotional divide between Chris and Shanann that had left her distraught in the days leading up to her disappearance. Had their troubles made Chris feel desperate for a way out? Desperate enough to kill? So many questions remain. Did Chris's mistress, Nicole, know more about the situation than she let on? Did she have any idea that Chris would soon end the lives of the people who loved him the most? Chris was about to come clean with what really happened to his family. The story of Chris and Shanann wasn't over. In fact, it was just starting to unfold, and that made some people really nervous. Chris and Nicole met at work and sparks flew. They soon began an affair, but according to Nicole, she was not aware that this was an affair or that she was the mistress, that she was the other woman. She says she thought she was dating a guy who was in the midst of a divorce. Once news of Shanann's disappearance spread, Nicole went to the police of her own free will to speak to them about her involvement with Watts. But was she a hero in the story? Or, as Shanann's parents believed back then, did she try to help Chris, only to get scared and bail when it started coming unraveled? Was she actually helping him and then decided to save herself? She was never arrested or charged. However, is there more than meets the eye with Nicole? Sure, she had been helping the police. It seemed like she was on their side and not her lovers. She told them about Chris and Shanann's many issues. She told them Chris had confided in her that he was no longer in love. She said he talked about living alone. She basically handed them his motive on a silver platter. But Nicole also told police she had no idea that Chris and Shanann were expecting a baby number 3. She said, as far as she knew, their marriage was over. There are thousands of armchair detectives who passionately followed the story and were not satisfied with that explanation. It appeared to those following the case closely that the police weren't exactly satisfied with the explanation either. So let's be real. In today's world, all it would have taken were a few clicks of Nicole's mouse or a scroll on her phone to find Shanann's Facebook. Everyone knows that if you're single and you meet someone in this day and age, the first thing you do is check out their social media platforms. You look them up online and find out not only who they are today, but who they were before you met them. If they have an ex, you are going to know about it and go right to their page too. You are just straight up lying if you claim you don't. This wasn't an ex. This is somebody who tells you, I'm still married, I'm getting a divorce. Well, you know what? Anybody with any self-awareness is going to say, really? Let me just go look and see what was posted yesterday, what was posted last week. If you're telling me this is a divorce and that you're really separated, living under one roof purely for financial reason, then that's going to be reflected on these social media platforms. There's going to be some individuality. We're not going to be seeing all this togetherness, all these family interactions. You're not going to see this wife sitting in the husband's lap. Anyone can figure this out if they take a look. If Nicole had checked out either Chris's or Shanann's social media, nothing would have indicated that there was a divide. Certainly not that there was a looming divorce. In fact, Shanann was frequently posting about how excited she was to add to her family. She was always posting about how much she loved her husband in her life. Is it really plausible that Nicole didn't do a little digging? Really? Not even digging, just clicking on her new man and his soon-to-be ex? Put yourself in that situation. What would you do? And then tell me if you buy what she is selling. Police may have had the same thought. They may have thought, well, maybe she's not saying everything she knows. As they continued to investigate Chris, they started looking into Nicole as well. She's supposedly their advocate, their inside track on what's going on. They're talking to her, encouraging her, like, can I get you a drink? Have a seat, let's chat. But she's not out the door before they're checking on her as well. They found that while she was being very forthcoming about certain things, she wasn't necessarily telling the whole story. They found out that she was deliberately holding some things back. They asked her to turn over her phone. I would have said, yes, of course, you can have it, here. Anything to find that young mama and her babies. She was hesitant. She eventually handed her device over to investigators, and the text messages and internet searches they found made them take an even closer look at her actions before, during, and after Shanann, Bella, and Cece's murders. Here's things that don't allegedly track with what Nicole told police. On July the 24th, 2018, during the height of Nicole's and Chris's relationship, Nicole searched Google for "man I'm having an affair with says he will leave his wife." This is about 2.5, maybe 3 weeks before these tragic murders take place. She obviously had some questions here, because she Googles the phrase "man I'm having an affair with says he will leave his wife." Nicole didn't search about dating a separate man, or how it would work to date a divorced man with children. She specifically Googled affair. Interesting choice of words for a woman who thought her man was separated, simply waiting for some paperwork to go through. On August the 8th, she's back Googling. This time the phrase is "marrying your mistress." She also did a Google search for wedding dresses and spent hours afterwards searching for gowns online. We've got a woman who is Googling married man, affairs, and wedding dresses right before her lover's wife and children are brutally murdered. Now, is that a coincidence? You know, maybe. Maybe she thinks that the divorce is getting ready to come through, and so he's going to be available. But it doesn't take a genius to consider the possibility that Nicole was hoping for a future with this guy and that she knew she was having a full-blown secret affair, not just dating a separate man who was back on the market. Police also immediately saw that Nicole had deleted many of the texts and photos she had shared with Chris. People who have nothing to hide nothing. Well, Nicole thought she had deleted them, but they don't really go away, and police were able to retrieve them. It seems like it's always the phone that gets you in these stories, isn't it? Once something is searched or sent, even if you delete it, it's just never really gone. It's like a bad rash. I can't tell you the number of times Google searches and texts come back and just bite people right in the butt. Of course, the police first question was why had Nicole deleted texts between herself and Chris in the first place? What was she trying to hide? Her explanation was simple. She said she was grossed out by Chris after finding out from news articles that he wasn't separated from his wife and that Shanann was pregnant when she disappeared. So understand, what she's asking you to believe now is that she only learned this when she read it in the news. She hadn't clicked on Shanann's Instagram, she hadn't gone to her Facebook page, she hadn't done any investigation at all. He just told her at work, "I'm separated, getting a divorce, just waiting for the paperwork to go through." And she just said, okay. She didn't look, she didn't check, she didn't do anything that takes nothing more than a click. We know she knows how to click that phone because we know she clicked it about married man says he's leaving his wife. We know she clicked it about getting a wedding gown. We know she clicked it about other things, but never clicked it to look into his current living situation. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time with that. So what did she delete? Well, it was mostly lovey-dovey back and forth. Chris might have been shy and soft-spoken in real life and cold and disconnected when texting his own wife. But in his conversations with Nicole, he comes across like a real-life Romeo. Some of the recovered text messages from Chris to Nicole read as follows. "Hope you had a great night, beautiful. Miss you. Get home safe. Sweet dreams, my sexy empanada." Chris sent that text message in the evening of August 11th, 2 days before he brutally murdered Shanann and his 2 innocent children. It seemed Chris also wanted Nicole to see the best in him. He sent Nicole this text about his character. "I'm about loyalty, truthfulness, and being dedicated. I don't like playing games unless it's role-playing. I'll give you a minute to throw up in your mouth." It's interesting that Chris points out that he's all about loyalty and truthfulness when he's deceiving both his wife and his mistress. According to her, apparently, you can tell he's lying when his lips are moving. He's lying to his wife, he's lying to his mistress, maybe he's lying to himself. But when somebody starts telling you that they're loyal and truthful and dedicated, the only thing that's going to make me more nervous than that is if they start telling me they're a deacon in the church. That's just how obvious it is to me. Arguably, one of the most telling texts Chris sent Nicole during their many communications was this. Chris writes, "Being in your life is something I crave." Now here's why that one is so important to study. This wasn't a man saying he craved sex with this woman. Plenty of affairs are purely physical. No, what Chris was saying was he wanted to be in this woman's life. But did Chris crave being in Nicole's life enough that he felt like he needed to erase his own? That he felt like he needed to erase the family he had in his current life? Everybody has asked that question. If he wanted out so bad, get a divorce. If he wanted out so bad, just leave. Abandon them. Anything is better than family annihilation. Why would you do that? Why would you have to do that? If you don't want to be there, leave. But a narcissist sees things only from their point of view. Understand from his point of view. If he can just eradicate these people from the face of the earth, then A, he becomes the victim. Oh, poor Chris. And B, there's no alimony, no child support, no legal fees. In fact, it could turn out pretty profitable. While Shanann and the girls were visiting her family in North Carolina, Chris was keeping busy working out, trying to look his best, and wooing his mistress with racy texts and love letters. He was quoting country and reggae songs and buying Nicole mushy greeting cards with giant hearts all over them. In one handwritten letter he wrote, "The first day I saw you, you took my breath away. The first day I had the guts to talk to you, I got lost in those stunning green eyes. The first day we hung out in the park together, I knew I was addicted. Big things will happen this year. Dreams will come true." It makes you wonder what big things Chris was referring to exactly. Did he have a plan in his head that he was going to carry out to make his dream come true? There were no dreams that were going to be coming true for anyone involved in this mess. No dreams, only nightmares. Meanwhile, Shanann was ordering a relationship self-help book. She was trying to find a way to save her marriage. Instead of taking this gesture as an olive branch, Chris threw the book in the garbage. It could very well have been a metaphor for how he felt about her. He was checked out, done, ready to throw the relationship away and her with it. He wanted to be rid of his old life in favor of a shiny new one. You just wonder how much Nicole knew. And you wonder what she would have thought if someone had whispered to her, "If he'll do it with you, he'll do it to you." From the very beginning, the burning and heartbreaking question has been, if Chris was that unhappy, if he felt that burdened, if he felt that trapped, why not just get a divorce? Why did he have to kill them? Back then, Shanann's mother said she knows her daughter would have walked away without any problem. She knew that her daughter had enough dignity, enough self-respect, enough self-worth, that she did not want to be where she's not welcome. Could something Nicole told her friend be a clue to his mindset? A clue to why he took this drastic action? When Nicole first spoke to detectives, she claimed that she hadn't told anyone about her relationship with Chris. Just a few days later, she changed her story and admitted to police she had, in fact, confided in one friend about her relationship. Just one day before Shanann and the sweet little girl's death, Nicole told her friend the one thing she didn't like about Chris was the fact that he already had children. She felt she might always be the second best, and it bothered her that he had been there, done that. It makes you wonder, what if she mentioned those feelings to Chris? If he thought he might lose her because he already had a family? If he thought Nicole felt he would have divided loyalties, that she would always be second to his existing family, to his existing children? Maybe not to Shanann, but Cece and Bella? Would she always be the other one? If he thought that was a big concern of hers, and that he might lose her because she was threatened by his children, could that be the answer to why? Why he couldn't just leave? Why he had to get rid of the children and his wife permanently? Did he really just want to be with Nicole at any cost? Had she messaged to him that she wasn't going to be the second fiddle to anyone or anything? Had he interpreted that to mean, "You better show up with a clean slate, buddy"? But Nicole insisted she had not disclosed her worries about his children to Chris, only to the friend that she had said she had not talked to, because remember, she said she didn't tell anybody. The police have a witness here, a helper here, that lies one minute, tells the truth the next. So you have to wonder, are you lying now, or were you lying then? Because you know, she is lying. You just don't know when. Which is a lie, which is the truth. But she says she didn't tell Chris. She was just venting to a friend right after she said she didn't vent to anybody. Did you ever say anything to him? Anything about his kids being a problem? Anything about his wife being a problem? Never. This shocked me just as much as I think it shocked the rest of the world. He's so disgusting. I'm so ashamed of him. Why? How? I don't even understand how you could bring yourself to do that to somebody. Nicole said she believes that she in no way influenced Chris to kill his family. She stated to police, "I legitimately think his cheese was sliding off his cracker long before he met me. Is that why she fell in love with him?" Nicole also texted the same friend, like, "He seems too good to be true." Well, which is it? Is his cheese sliding off his cracker? Or is he too good to be true? Again, it's inconsistent. It certainly turns out she was right about his messed up mind. In the days after her initial statement to police, she would frequently call detectives with additional information that she just remembered. I guess she was just sitting around like, oh, wait a minute. Chris and Nicole spoke the night before and quite a bit on the day of his family's disappearance. For most of the day, Chris told her he was busy with work, but the two exchanged text messages throughout the day as if everything was normal. As if Chris hadn't just murdered his family and concealed their bodies. Chris's day was busy because the tower of lies he had built was crashing down, and he was telling so many lies, it was just impossible to keep up. Now again, here's a little window into his psyche. You know I've told you that narcissists have no empathy. They have no capacity to feel sorrow or remorse or to experience the pain that someone else might be feeling. That's why he has the ability to murder his pregnant wife, an unborn child, and then ultimately his two innocent children, one of whom looks him in the eyes and says, "Are you going to do the same thing to me as you did to Cece?" But he can then whip out his phone and flirt with his mistress like he was on the way to Costco's or something. That takes a special kind of cold-blooded, detached psyche. It was 3:45 p.m. that Chris finally sent a text message to Nicole telling her that his family was gone. Naturally, this sent Nicole into a tailspin. Chris was evasive, and according to Nicole, didn't seem terribly concerned. Nicole also spoke to the CBI agent Kobach about an eerie late-night FaceTime call she had with Chris on Monday, August the 13th. Remember, his wife and children had been missing since that morning. I think we were talking a little bit, but he was laying down on a mattress that didn't have any sheets on it. And I remember asking him, like, where's Shanann, and I didn't honestly think that much about it originally, because that man is always clean, like he's very, very organized, meticulous. That did not seem like a super red flag to me, of course we know now why Chris had no sheets on his mattress. Remember? The police found bed sheets in the trash at the Watts residence and also a sheet wrapped around Shanann's deceased body. A drone search located a lone sheet on the oilfield property. This aerial discovery was what initially led police to finding the bodies of Shanann. So now, Chris is FaceTiming his mistress from that bed, the very same bed he claims to have strangled his wife on just hours before. He's now lying in this bed, feet up, comfortable, FaceTiming his mistress. By Tuesday, the 14th, Chris and Nicole's romance was abruptly over. Nicole expressed to detectives that she was concerned about how the media would perceive her. Nicole's scandalous internet searches were splashed across headlines. It seems like she knew this would be inevitable because of the media culture. She tried to prevent this by deleting her browser history. She thought, of course, the internet forgets. So now, it just looked even worse. Not only did she have these searches, she had tried to bury the searches. She had tried to hide the searches. And she got caught trying to dump the data. In the wake of Chris becoming the prime suspect in Shanann's disappearance, Nicole also researched Shanann Watts and Chris Watts online frequently, sometimes for hours. Every time Nicole searched for information on Chris and Shanann, she would immediately delete the search right after. The same day, Nicole also browsed Google for the following questions. Can cops trace text messages? How long do phone companies keep text messages? And difference between text message content and text message detail. This is all according to police documents. What she should have researched first was, can police track Google searches? After her initial statement to police, after Shanann and her daughter's bodies were found, get this, Nicole searched Amber Frey. Then she searched Amber Frey's net worth. Then she searched Amber Frey's book deal. And then she searched, do people hate Amber Frey? As much as people compare Chris Watts to Scott Peterson, you cannot compare Nicole Kessinger to Amber Frey. At least Nicole Kessinger appears to compare herself to Amber Frey. I assume since she does, other people do. There's just one significant difference. Amber Frey 100% did not know that Scott Peterson was married. Nicole Kessinger 100% did know. Amber Frey went on to write a book, to be the subject of movies about her life story, and to live a successful and happy life. So what has become of Nicole? She had gotten involved with a married father whose face was now splashed all over the front of every newspaper and magazine, and the word murderer was right next to his name. No matter how much Nicole may have wanted to erase or delete Chris and their brief involvement from her life, it seems that from now on, their names will be forever linked. Nicole mentioned that she and her friends were trying to do damage control by taking down her social media accounts and removing the photos that existed of her on Facebook. But it was too late. Everywhere you looked, on TV, in magazines, newspapers, there were photos of Nicole Kessinger, the other woman. It's likely there won't be a book deal in Nicole's future. She has never given a televised interview. She has not been spotted publicly since. On August the 21st, 2018, Chris shoveled into court with his attorneys, clad in an orange inmate suit, glasses and handcuffs. He was a far cry from the good-looking all-American dad that he had presented to the world just days before. He looked somber, already older. It was over for him. The courtroom was packed. Everyone wanted to hear what Chris Watts was going to be charged with. The judge denied him bail. In the front row of the courtroom, Shanann's father sobbed while the charges were read. He was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder after deliberation for the deaths of Shanann, Cece, and Bella. Let me say that again. 3 counts of first-degree murder after deliberation. That means he didn't snap. This wasn't a crime of passion. He didn't fly into a rage. This was a murder after deliberation, after thought, premeditated. 2 counts of first-degree murder for causing the death of a person under the age of 12 while being in a position of trust. 1 count of unlawful termination of a pregnancy. 3 counts of tampering with a deceased body. If convicted of all 9 charges, Chris was potentially facing the rest of his life in prison and could face the death penalty. He made the decision to save his own life. I think he did that because he knew what we knew. And he knew that this could be figured out pretty easily. Although he still maintained that Shanann had killed the children, so he killed her, Chris took responsibility for all 3 deaths in court, pled guilty to the charges in exchange for not facing the death penalty, or for other reasons that might never be known. So Chris was now behind bars for good, and no matter what story he spun, he would pay for these heinous crimes. The nightmare seemed over. The legal system seemed to have done its job. But as I said before, we do have a legal system. We don't have a justice system. You go to the courthouse to pursue charges. You don't go to the courthouse for justice. Because the only justice would be for Shanann, Cece, Bella, and Nico to be back in this world. That's not going to happen. That would be justice. But given the limits of the system, what could be done was done, and the nightmare seemed to be over. But investigators, not the prosecution, but investigators, well, they weren't quite done after all. They went back to interview him again, one more time from prison. So what was their reason for this additional questioning? You can't try him for the same crimes twice. That would be double jeopardy. So they've gotten all they are going to get. So why talk to this monster again? They already have him. He pled guilty. They had recovered the bodies. Did it really matter what other details he added to the situation? He was locked up and paying the price regardless of what he now said. Back then, Shanann's parents had a theory. They strongly believed the reason the FBI went into that prison again was because of none other than Mistress Nicole. Shanann's mom claims she believed investigators went in on a mission to get Chris to roll on his mistress. He did not. At least, not yet. Not to this day. And again, she has never been implicated or charged with any crime. It turns out the worst thing that Nicole did in the eyes of the law at this point is to fall in love with the wrong man. But whatever the reason was that they went in, they came out with way more than they ever could have bargained for. They came out with a confession from Chris Watts, an admission of exactly when and how he, not Shanann, killed his 2 beautiful and innocent daughters. Finally, this monster, this excuse for a human being, told at least some of the truth. The legal system had done its job, but true justice for Shanann, Bella, and Cece remained elusive to this day.